Aloha and welcome to the Travelman Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and if you're joining me for the first time, then I say a massive thank you, and if you're a returning listener, then I thank you for listening. On today's awesome episode, I'll be talking to my good pal, Chris Raney, who hosts Yellow Productions on YouTube. He knows Hawaii well and is excited to tell you everything you need to know for your holiday to Hawaii. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. Hey Chris, thanks for joining me, mate. It's been a little while since we've talked to each other on a podcast form or on YouTube, but how's the weather there in sunny California?
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Ben. Thanks for having me on the Travelman Podcast. And the weather in sunny Southern California, actually, it's been quite rainy for the last 4 or 5 days, which is fairly unusual. But in a place that's this sunny and dry, we really need the rain, so it's all good.
Yeah. At the moment, it's about 13 degrees and windy and showery in Melbourne, so not very nice weather either. So, considering,
well, that's a bummer, but it's the opposite seasons, right? So it's spring here and fall there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we've just gone into autumn. But considering the weather, now we're going to be talking about Hawaii. It's a tropical paradise, and I'm sure the weather's always lovely in Hawaii, although quite windy, like Melbourne it is at times. So what's it like to visit a tropical paradise like Hawaii? Because I've always wanted to visit Hawaii, but I never got the chance. But I've visited other places which I would think of as being a tropical paradise like Bali.
For sure. Hawaii, I in a word, I would describe it as amazing. And it really is an island paradise, although every island in Hawaii is kind of a different experience. So I wouldn't say there's like one typical experience in Hawaii. All the islands, if you want like food, you want a city, you want to relax, there's all those different things in Hawaii. But I think the best part about it for most people is Hawaii is far enough away from everything and is beachy enough and the weather's great enough that people just, unplug from the daily grind of life and you can enjoy the palm trees. And yes, to your point about windy, Hawaii can get windy, but it's another one that it just depends on what part of Hawaii you're in, whether it's, windy or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, because there's different parts of Hawaii for, I guess, different types of holidays. Is that kind of true? You could have a different holiday on Oahu than you would on Maui?
For sure. Like Maui is known as the quintessential honeymooners island. So if you're going on your honeymoon, Maui is the place where people go on their honeymoon. If you want the best food, then Oahu is definitely the place for the best food. And if you want to just get away from people, then Kauai is the place to get away from people, because that was actually the island where they filmed a lot of the scenes from Jurassic Park, the big jungle type scene. So you can have your own Jurassic Park jungle experience, although maybe without the dinosaurs.
With Hawaii, is that what they call the Big Island?
So one of the islands in Hawaii is called Hawaii. That's like the name of the island. And so the island of Hawaii is what they call the Big Island. That's the only island that has an active volcano on it.
Okay. And that volcano is pretty bloody big too, isn't it?
It is pretty bloody big.
So I know you've been to Hawaii often because I watch so many of your videos on Yellow Productions on YouTube. Anyone that wants to enjoy some great Hawaii content, then check out Chris's videos because they're great. And you've done so many of the islands. You've done, mate, I always feel like I'm in Hawaii when I'm watching your videos, but I know that you've been often. So why is Hawaii so close to your heart?
Yeah, right on. Well, hey, thanks for the kind words on the videos. And I have about 30 videos on Hawaii, and the videos on Oahu, Maui, and Kauai. But I think Hawaii is close to my heart because I'm a beach boy at heart. So I'm born and raised in Southern California, in San Diego in particular. San Diego is a big beach town. Surfing culture is a really big part of it. And beaches really don't get much better than those in Hawaii. I mean, I like the beaches in San Diego, but the water's really not that warm, and the water's not clear. But in Hawaii, it's bathtub type water, and you can see your feet in it. And And I love the food too. The food is fantastic. In particular, the Asian food in Hawaii. And I'll say that Hawaiian, like there's Hawaiian food, and it has its own culture of Hawaiian food. And we'll probably talk about that as we chat in this podcast. But then the Japanese food is really good too, because there's so many Japanese that have immigrated to Hawaii that have lived there for like 3 or 4 generations. That the Japanese, I love the Japanese food there too.
Yeah, I've heard the Japanese food there is very. It's different though. It's a little bit different because they use what is it, spam?
Hawaii, they love Spam. Yeah, Spam is like a national dish of Hawaii. And in particular, in a dish that they call musubi, which is like Spam that they've sliced and grilled, and then it's like a piece of rice wrapped in seaweed. You could almost think of it as Spam sushi, except served warm.
Wow. And is it tasty?
It is pretty tasty. And like you can get it with, different things. You can get it with egg on it. And if you go to almost any convenience store in Hawaii, they'll have a case next to the cash register that serves musubi.
Musubi. I'll have to look that up. Musubi. Chris, when's the best time to visit Hawaii?
Yeah, it depends. It depends what you mean by best. And so best could be cheapest, or best could be warmest, or best could be coolest. And I would say the thing about Hawaii, since it's kind of one of these tropical countries, it basically has like 2 seasons. They have the wet season and they have the dry season. There's not really summer, winter, and fall. And so you can sort of take a look at what that is per island, because they're kind of different. You want to figure out where you're going and take a look at the rainfall. But if it rains all the time, then you're like, oh, there's kind of a drag. And even like different sides of the island will rain more than others. So like in Maui, for example, at the top of Maui, at the top of the big mountain, it gets something like 100 inches of rain a year.
Wow.
But if you stay in this part of Maui called Wailea, which is my favorite part of Maui to stay in, it only gets like less than 10 inches of rain a year on that part of the same island. And it's just like 20 miles from that part that gets 100 or 200 inches a year. Wow. But my favorite time to visit Hawaii is around Thanksgiving, before Christmas. So like end of November into December. And the reason why is I usually find that to be the least expensive time to go. Because for all of the people in the rest of the U.S., like particularly the East Coast of the U.S., like New York and Boston and cold places, they haven't started traveling for vacation yet. And so Hawaii is inexpensive because nobody's going to like tropical islands in that November, December time. They're all going starting in January when they're really freezing.
Okay. And so in relation to when to go to Hawaii, is there a couple of months in Hawaii where the weather is perfect, even though there will be a little bit of wind or rain?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say like what perfect is, but if your goal is to say, well, what has the least amount of rain, things like that. I think like September, October, August. Like I think that's probably like a good time to go.
But you could go to Hawaii any time of the year, couldn't you?
You absolutely could. Yeah. Okay. And I think, other things to look at are to say, well, do you like to swim or do you like to surf? And so then Hawaii gets different. Like there's this thing on Oahu known as like the North Shore. And people have probably seen videos of like the Bonsai Pipeline or these 50-foot waves. Yeah. And so those only happen in the winter in Hawaii. So if you're going to surf and you want to surf 50-foot waves, if you go in the summer, just the direction of the ocean swells and things like that, that side of the island picks up in the winter, where the waves in Waikiki are bigger in the summer.
And when you say winter, is that U.S. winter?
Yeah, that's U.S. winter, right? Or that's Northern Hemisphere winter. So
Northern Hemisphere winter,
that would be the months of like, October, November, December, January, February, right?
Gotcha. You know what? With Hawaii, I always associated Hawaii with large waves and I guess not very clear water. But you remember we were talking earlier, and we were talking about how the water is clear in Hawaii and warm. I always thought of Hawaii as somewhere that is a beachy place, but always just anywhere you'd go, there would be waves.
Yeah, there are not waves anywhere you'd go. It's really a certain side of the island at a certain time of year gets waves. And so Waikiki, actually one of the reasons why people like Waikiki to like swim for tourists is that the waves that are near the shore are like super tiny. They're really small in Waikiki. And that's actually what makes Waikiki a really good like longboarding surf destination is the waves are these small, long rolling waves, but they're not huge. And so you don't feel like you're going to get like pulled under by some big monster wave.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. I've been crashed by a wave before, and I pinched a nerve in my neck, but it was when I was very young. And it was quite frightening. I didn't. That
sounds painful.
Yeah,
I bet it was
very good. Yeah, it wasn't very good. So, if you've gone for a swim, gone for a bit of a surf, now you're feeling a bit hungry and you're thirsty. So, what do you think are the best local things to eat and drink when you're in Hawaii, and does it change depending on what island you're in?
Kind of. So I'll start with, I think, with a quintessential Hawaiian food to eat, and you could get this on any island, and it's poke, and it rhymes with okay, but it's spelled like poke, P-O-K-E. Sometimes people call it poke. It's not poke. It's not pokey. It's poke, like rhymes with okay. And I would call it like a Hawaiian tuna salad, essentially. So it's like generally raw tuna as the base, and then some seasonings, and it's often served on top of rice. You can get it just poke by itself, but it can also come with other fish as the base, like octopus or salmon. So I would say find poke. If you can't find like a poke, like a restaurant or place that just specializes in poke, if you go to any of the supermarkets in Hawaii, you go to like Foodland, you go to the Time supermarket, they will have a poke counter that'll have like 10 different types of poke. So you could just get it from there, eat it back in your hotel, or eat it as a picnic. Yeah. Now, if you don't like raw fish and you're on the island of Oahu, then garlic shrimp is one of the quintessential dishes to have. And in particular, along the north shore of Hawaii, where those big waves are, there are a lot of these shrimp trucks, like food trucks, that serve this garlic shrimp. It's kind of like a shrimp scampi with rice that's made with kind of like some wine and butter and garlic. Really delicious.
Oh, delicious. And what about your favorite drink, Chris?
Yeah, so I'm not a big alcohol drinker. So when people would say like, "What's a popular drink?" People often tend to like the Mai Tais or the Pina Coladas, which are certainly popular. But my favorite drink in Hawaii are the Hawaiian Sun drinks. It's a canned fruit beverage. They come in tons of different tropical flavors. My favorite is the Lily Koi Passion flavor. It comes in a black can. And so like a perfect lunch in my mind in Hawaii is to get a poke bowl, right? Some tuna poke over rice with a Hawaiian Sun Lily Koi Passion drink, and eat it out somewhere looking at the water.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. But I think if it was me, I would add some vodka to it.
Hey, there you go. Maybe that makes it even better.
Yeah. Have you been looking at all my Instagram pictures of me drinking every night with quarantinis?
I've seen lots of Instagram pictures of bottles of various types of alcohol.
Don't think I'm a drunk.
Only slightly.
What's your favorite island, Chris, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so actually, of some of the Hawaii videos I have a video titled, "Which is the Best Hawaiian Island?" And in that video, I kind of go through the different islands and who they're best for, but I'll tell you at first which one's my favorite. And so my favorite is the island of Oahu. And I like Oahu the best because I love the food there the best. The food scene's really great. I also love the hotels. And Ben, I know you've watched my channel quite a bit, but for those of your listeners that haven't, I'm kind of a hotel snob. Like I like to stay in nice hotels, like Park Hyatts and that sort of stuff. And Oahu has a lot of really high-end nice hotels. And because Oahu has a lot of people who travel there for business as well, you can find good deals on some of these high-end hotels. So that's why I like Oahu. Oahu.
And Oahu's got Waikiki and Honolulu within it.
Yeah, so Honolulu is the capital of Hawaii, the capital of Oahu as well. So it's the capital of the state,
Uh-huh.
it's the capital of the island, and then
Okay.
within the city of Honolulu, there's a beach area known as Waikiki. Waikiki as a beach area has like 70% of all the hotels and all the visitors that come to Hawaii stay in Waikiki. So Waikiki is kind of like the Las Vegas Strip next to the beach, like high-rise hotels. You walk down the main street. There's torches at night. It's a really busy, crazy place, but it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it would be like Australia's Gold Coast, nearly.
I've never been to the Gold Coast. I hope to go sometime, but yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll go one day. Yeah, that's very interesting. I always thought Waikiki was separate to Honolulu, but it's inside of Honolulu.
It is part of the city of Honolulu. That's
part of the city of Honolulu. Now, Honolulu's the largest city in Hawaii.
Yes, population-wise.
So, what's the best beach to swim at if you want, clear, flat water just to snorkel or scuba or just swim around? And then what's the best beach to swim at if you want to do a little bit of body surfing or paddle boarding or so forth?
Great. So I think that I'm actually going to say I think there's like 3 sets of questions embedded in there, and what I'll call the 3 sets of questions are like, and I'm adding a question that you didn't ask, but so one might be what's the best beach to snorkel at? The second one might be what's the best beach to body surf at? And the third one might be what if you just want to swim in the ocean, but you don't want to do any, like, you don't really want any waves, because there are those places too. And so I like Hawaii, I like to almost use like the beach as like a swimming pool, because you'll find those places.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I'll start with Oahu, and I'll say that so most people in Oahu, I mentioned like 70% of the visitors and hotels are in Waikiki Beach, and Waikiki as a beach is just crazy and crowded, and so, like, it's a lot of fun. But if what you're looking to do is like be in the water and be kind of relaxing about it and not have 1,000 people next to you, then it's not the place to be. And so on Oahu, one of my favorite beaches just to swim in the water is in this part of Oahu called Olina. It's where the Aulani Hotel is. That's the Disney hotel. And Olina has 4 man-made coves. So because it has these man-made coves, there's like no waves that come in there. So it makes it great to swim in there. Olina is also a pretty decent place to snorkel because they have rocks that have made the coves. And so you can kind of go out with your snorkel by the rocks and check out some of the fish that are there. If you are like an epic body surfer, and by epic, I mean like really good at it, then there is one beach on Oahu called Sandy Beach. It's a beach break. So the waves break like 6, 8, 10-foot waves and like 2 feet of water. But if you're a really good body surfer, then that's where the body surfers like to go. But you'll want to be really careful if you're not, because they don't call it Breakneck Beach for no reason. Now, on Oahu, there is this beach called Hana Umma Bay. And actually, if you were to look up snorkeling, Hana Umma Bay is one of the classic places to go snorkeling. But it's so popular and it's so busy that they only let a certain number of people go a day. And it closes on certain days to let the fish kind of recover. So just know that if you're going to go to Hana Umma Bay, it's really touristy and busy. And they actually make you watch like a safety video about how to keep the reef safe. But if you're looking for a beginning snorkeling spot, that's kind of a good place on Oahu. Just to finish on with the beaches on a couple of other islands. Maui, my favorite beach in Maui, and this is like if you just want to do like beach play, good sandy beach, are the beaches of Wailea. And actually, my favorite hotel in all the Hawaiian Islands is the Andaz Hotel in Wailea, ANDAZ. It's a Hyatt affiliated hotel, but it's really neat. And Wailea has won like the Travel Channel's like top 10 best beaches of the world, like year after year after year. So that one's good sandy. There's good snorkeling there, and there's good waves, and so it's kind of a good set for all those things. And then if you're in Kauai and you're looking for like another good kind of like sandy casual beach that has a lot of that stuff, there's a beach called Poipu. which is on the south part of Kauai, which is also the dry part of Kauai. So if you're looking to go to Kauai and have it not rain all the time, that's a great place to stay. And Poipu is also kind of known for having sea turtles that come up on the beach. So the sea turtle is kind of like the state animal of Hawaii. And it's like they're protected, but they're these really big turtles that are, maybe like a meter or a meter and a half across.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, they're big.
Wow, that's really big. And do they chase you in the water when you swim? Or do they swim away from you?
No, they kind of just swim. But it's really neat, like if you're snorkeling or you're scuba diving, to see these things. And they can actually grow to be up to 300 pounds. Now, what I will mention is that the sea turtles, they are protected. And so, there are some laws in Hawaii that you need to maintain, something like 3 to 6 feet away from them because people bug them. But the Hawaiian name for them is Hanu. So if you want to be Hawaiian, if you see the Hawaiian green sea turtle, this big turtle, you call it a Hanu.
Yeah. So there's no way that you can touch them or anything like that because they really frown upon it, right?
They do, yeah. And actually, a lot of times, if they'll come up on the beach, then the lifeguards might actually put some signs around them to be hey, leave the turtles alone.
Do they go up onto the beach to breed, to lay their eggs?
I'm sure they do. I'm not the expert in sea turtles, I will say. But I think they also like to go up on the beach every once in a while just to rest and get some sun and things like that. And so that's the time, at these touristy beaches where people see them, is generally when they're just kind of resting up on the sand.
Okay. And in relation to those great beach spots and beaches that we've just talked about, have you got any places that are a secret spot or somewhere that people or the average tourist wouldn't know about?
Yeah, beach-wise, I'll say in Oahu, I feel like all of Oahu has been pretty much discovered. So I don't think there's any secret spots in Oahu. I'll say that if you're looking for secret spots, definitely Maui and definitely Kauai are the place to find secret spots. And in Maui, the place you would find secret spots is what they call on the road to Hana. There's this little town called Hana, and there's this drive. It's an hour and a half or 2 hour drive on this road that has a lot of these 1-lane bridges. And there's a lot of cool places to stop and see waterfalls. But it's one of those things that, because there are just a lot of these random spots. You could actually Google road to Hana secret spots, and even though they're secret, chances are you'd only be there with a couple people, so you just want to pick what that out is. And then Kauai, that island is kind of so big and has so few people that if you're willing to take a hike for a couple hours to some beaches, then chances are you can have them all to yourselves too. Now, I will mention secret spots though, because I really like food. And there's 2 food places that I want to mention. And whenever people say, "Hey, Chris, I'm going to Oahu. What should I eat?" And these would be places that I think you wouldn't just find if you were stumbling around. So there's a really good Japanese place it's in Waikiki. It's called Tonkatsu Ginza Bairen. And this place specializes in katsu, which is a fried breaded pork cutlet. But this place is in Waikiki. It's full of Japanese tourists. They serve Japanese food, and it's full of Japanese tourists from Japan, which tells you that the food's really good if people from Japan come all the way to Hawaii to eat this Japanese food. And so get any of their katsu dishes. I really like the katsu don, which is fried breaded pork cutlet over rice with some egg. It's really delicious. And then just across the street from there is an ice cream place called Henry's Place. It's this, I don't know, it's in the basement of this 2-story apartment building, and they serve fruit-based ice creams and sherbets that are just in styrofoam cups. I'll say that Hawaii is not the most environmentally friendly place because they love their styrofoam. They're just in these styrofoam cups, and they have it in this freezer for $5, and they write on the styrofoam cup what flavor it is. But there'll be things like mango and papaya and guava. And it's some of the best ice cream I've ever had. So that's my recommendation, is to go get your lunch or dinner at Tonkatsu Ginza Byron, and then to go get your dessert at Henry's Place. And if you want to see what those things look like, you could watch my video on the best cheap eats in Waikiki, where I actually take you inside both those places.
And I'll try and see if I can provide links to all the Hawaii videos on the website,
Cool.
which you'll be able to look at show notes and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good, Ben. I'll send you, and maybe like the specific ones, but then I'll also send you a link to the playlist that your listeners can find. To be like, if they just want to find all the Hawaiian videos, they can hit that one, and it has all of them in it.
That's perfect. And in relation to desserts in Hawaii, is that the place where you eat all the shaved ice?
Yeah. Hawaii is famous for their shave ice.
Shave ice.
And shave ice, yeah, Hawaiian shave ice.
Shave ice, okay.
And so, sometimes it's called shave, sometimes it's called shaved. But I would say, and it's like different places use it interchangeably. But I'll say typically in Hawaii, they refer to it as shave ice without the D at the end.
It doesn't seem that pleasuring.
Shave ice, like a lot of people. No, it doesn't, but it's actually really good. A lot of people around the world have had like snow cones, which is generally like crushed ice. And the thing that makes shave ice different is the ice is actually, they make this like big block of round ice, and then it spins in this machine, and there's literally a blade that actually shaves the ice. And so it's very fluffy and powdery. And then they put some sort of like fruit syrups or condensed milk toppings and ice cream at the bottom. So it is really good.
So it is pretty tasty. Is there an In-N-Out or Shake Shack there?
No. If you're looking for burgers, the best burgers on Oahu is there's a chain called Teddy's Bigger Burgers. They have pretty good burgers. And they've like franchised out to other parts of like the mainland USA, but frankly, the ones in the mainland aren't as good as the ones in Hawaii. And if you're in Waikiki, you'll find a Teddy's Bigger Burgers that's sort of near the Marriott in Waikiki. If you're on Kauai, then there's also kind of a cool chain called Bubba's Burgers. Bubba's uses Hawaiian raised beef, so it's really, really pretty tasty. It's not In-N-Out Burger, but it's pretty decent.
Do they breed the Wagyu beef there? I'm just thinking because of the Japanese influence.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think that the beef in Hawaii is likely probably raised more like outdoors and humane, and probably eats better things, and because they're not like mega farms.
I was watching something about the practices of growing vegetables and fruits and vegetables in Hawaii. It's done quite organically and quite respectful to the environment. They don't use many insecticides and pesticides and stuff. Well, this one video I was watching once, and there is a lot of, and they also farm, I think, coffee and chocolate too, which is cool.
Yeah, they sure do. And of course, the quintessential thing grown in Hawaii is pineapples. And the pineapples in Hawaii are way better than the pineapples that you've likely had most other places. At least the pineapples in the mainland of the USA are typically these, like, I'll call them vile, sour things that, like you feel like you should be using the pineapple juice to like clean the grout in your bathroom as opposed to actually eat it. But the pineapples in Hawaii are just super sweet. So very, very different from the ones you get in most places.
There's a great story about, I think, what's the brand? There's a famous drink in Hawaii. Well, this comes from Hawaii using Hawaiian pineapples. Dole, the Dole company, Dole. And there's a
Dole
great
pineapple.
story.
The Dole Whip.
Yeah.
The Dole Whip. Right.
Yeah. So there's a great story that goes along with that and how they source the pineapples and so forth. So it's very interesting. I don't really know it. Well, I can't recite it off the top of my head. That's the only problem. Otherwise, we'd be here for a good hour plus talking about Dole, the company Dole.
Yeah. Sure. And if you go to Oahu, there's kind of a neat like tourist thing to visit. And I mean, it's some people might consider it like in the tourist trap variety, but there's the Dole pineapple plantation where you can get the Dole whip and like a whole bunch of like Dole souvenirs. And they've also got like a pineapple maze, and it's neat if you're looking for touristy things. You got kids, that sort of stuff, or you're just a kid at heart, which my wife and I are. So
yeah, you're a big kid, and now you've got a little kid, which is cute.
We do. We have. She is almost 4 months old.
Oh my God,
in
so cute.
2 days. Yeah,
she's adorable too, mate. Congratulations again.
Aw, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
That's right. Is she your very own little Dole whip?
She's we call her our very own little doll. Maybe not our very own little Dole whip, but yes.
What is Dole whip anyway? I was going to ask you what do you mean by whip? Is that the shaved ice cream stuff you're talking about when you say Dole whip?
No, so Dole whip. Yeah, no, like so Dole whip. I don't know, like it's like frozen and then whipped. Like it has a consistency that's almost like a like a slushy or smoothie, but slightly more creamy ice wise. Yeah, and they serve it at Disneyland here in California too. And like at Disneyland California, there'll be a line of like 30 people deep to get the Dole whip.
Oh, really? Wow. Hey, when you're traveling around Southeast Asia, which I know you've done a lot, Chris, you can get freshly squeezed juices and so forth. Is that readily available in Hawaii? They would probably source a lot of different tropical fruits while they would grow it in Hawaii. Is that readily available where you just, can get a few different types of fruits, a bit of ice, they mix it for you on the spot, and there you go, you got a fresh juice?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because you might think that, but I will say that it's probably less common. Like probably where you'll find that, like where you do find a lot of juices, is if you're staying in like one of the nice hotels and you're eating like the breakfast buffet at the hotel. Then yes, they'll have a lot of like juices, but you don't really find like juice stands on the side of the street where like in say like Singapore you'd walk around, you're like, oh, there's a juice stand, let me go get some fresh squeezed juice. If you were trying to find something like that, at least in Oahu, you would probably find it more around the Chinatown district in Honolulu. You can get like fresh squeezed like sugarcane juice and a lot of things there, but they've got a lot of these more like mom and pop tiny shops. Yeah.
And what's the Chinatown like there?
It's I'm trying to think of how to say this nicely. So Chinatowns are often like kind of run down, interesting places of cities, and so like the Hawaiian Chinatown in Oahu, like it is kind of a rundown place. But if you want like Chinese food, you want like dim sum, I mean that's the place to go get it. So I think it's a neat place to visit, but don't be expecting it to be so another Chinatown I've been to is the Chinatown in Yokohama, Japan. And like Yokohama, Japan, Chinatown's like super clean and sparkling, and that's not in Hawaii. But it's a great place to go also to just get food that's a lot cheaper than in Waikiki or the touristy areas.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Fair enough. And talking about things that could probably become a little bit dirty, what's the best hiking or walking tracks for people to explore when they're in Hawaii, Chris?
Yeah, great question, because hiking is a kind of a quintessential activity to do in Hawaii. On Oahu, like the classic hike to do for first-time visitors to Oahu, it's called Diamond Head. Diamond Head is like an old volcanic crater, and it's just it's right next to Waikiki, and so that's why it's a hike that people do almost as their first hike, because they can take a Uber or taxi ride for 15 minutes to go do this hike. I will say it is really busy, and so I'd recommend that could be one of the things. If you're like an early riser, you're jet lagged, do that, like sunrise, get a taxi, go up there, and you get great views. On the island of Maui, there's a state park that's so Maui has like two big kind of volcano mountains that are like define the island, and the east Maui volcano, on the top of it, there's a state park there. And I always mispronounce it because my Hawaiian pronunciation is not that good. But it's the Haleakala State Park. And it's like an elevation of something like like 10,000 feet or 3,000 meters high. And it kind of feels like it almost feels like you're on the moon if you're up there.
Oh,
So that's the one I like on Maui.
cool.
And then if you're on the
Cool.
island of Kauai, I feel like the whole place is just one big hiking path. I mean, there's tons of hikes on Kauai to just kind of get away from everybody and everything.
Okay. And are those volcanoes active, except for Diamond Head, which isn't active? Is Haleakala
No,
active?
so the only active volcano, the only active volcano is the
Yep.
one on the Big Island, or the island that's actually called Hawaii. That's the only active volcano on the islands.
Yeah. That volcano is called Mauna Loa, I think it is. Is that right? Mauna Loa?
I think so.
Mauna Loa?
Mhm.
I don't know how to pronounce Hawaiian. And that's actually a really cool island. I once read that. Yeah, Mauna Loa on Hawaii Island. I've heard that's taller from its base to its tip than what Mount Everest is. It's just a lot of the base is under the water. Something like that.
Yeah. I have not I've not explored underwater to see how tall it is, but I do believe you. Yeah.
Well, apparently it's about 13, because I looked this up. It's about 13,680 feet. Yes.
Yes. Wikipedia says that Mauna Loa is the world's largest active volcano.
Yeah. Well, it's 33,500 feet. If you were to measure from the base of Mauna Loa, which goes right under the sea, to its very tip, and then Mount Everest is 29,029 feet from base to the tip. So that's 10,000 meters and 8,800.
You would need like a really long. You'd need like a really long measuring stick to measure that, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you would need a very, very big measuring stick.
Yeah, and we're recording this.
Yeah,
we're recording this in the whole coronavirus crisis, and so somebody like I shared a picture that on my Facebook page that people in Canada were saying, hey, instead of saying 2 meters or 6 feet apart, to stay a polar bear's length apart. And then one of my Australian viewers sent me a picture and said that in Australia they've got signs to tell people to stay one adult male kangaroo's length apart. So.
I haven't seen that.
Have you seen any of those signs there in Australia, Ben? No.
No. All I see is stickers on the ground and markings and stuff, and they're pretty clear.
I'll have to ask that person what city they're in, because whatever city is in, apparently that city has a better sense of humor than Melbourne.
Yeah, we don't have any sense of humor in Melbourne. We're just right to the point. Right, you've got to stay 1.5 meters away from each other.
Okay.
Okay, sir. So all right. So what are some great areas that you'd suggest travelers to stay in on their first visit to Hawaii? So, they've just thought, I really want to go to Hawaii, but I don't know where to start. Would you think that Maui and Oahu would be a great first stop, especially if they had a couple of weeks? I think I've asked you these questions in the past, and many of your listeners ask you all the time. But so could you also do the Big Island of Hawaii? So what, in your opinion, is the best way for a traveler who hasn't stepped on foot in Hawaii before, and they just want to get a piece of Hawaii and bring it back with them?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I think the questions that I hear over and over again are, hey, where should I stay on each island? And then how many islands should I go to on a trip? And so the first thing that I say is, if you're spending 7 days or less in Hawaii, then I would recommend just one island. Frankly, the islands are big enough, particularly Oahu and Maui. They're big enough to spend a week on. And if you are trying to do 2 islands in a week, you're going to spend so much time in airports, getting rental cars, returning rental cars, checking into hotels, checking out of hotels, that you'll really deprive yourself of what I'll call the actual feeling of unplugging and enjoying the island life, because you'll be just spending all your time traveling. And even though the islands are close to each other and the flights are only 45 minutes. It is a flight, which means, get there 2 hours before, pick up your luggage, do all that sorts of stuff. I would say if you are planning to island hop, like 5 days. Yeah, it is. So I would say like 5 days per island. So I'd say, hey, and like 2 classic ones to do together are Oahu and Maui. So if people ask me and say, hey, Chris, what 2 islands should I do? I generally recommend Oahu and Maui, unless the person's like a really super outdoorsy person that likes camping and hates people. In that case, then Maui like and Kauai, because those have a lot less people than Oahu. Yeah, sure. I don't know your dad, but yes, if he likes the outdoors and doesn't like people, then he would like Kauai. I think Kauai is famous for having like more chickens than people on the island.
Wow.
But so now, like, where to stay? So I've got a whole video about where to stay on Oahu, where I go through like all the different neighborhoods. But just briefly, my recommendation for people's first time there, if they're staying like a week, is to split their stay between Waikiki and Olina. Waikiki is great because it's got a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of hustle and bustle. You're close to a lot of tourist attractions. And then Olina is neat because it's got these beaches that I mentioned that are these cove beaches, and they're not too busy. The beach that's right in front of the Aulani Hotel is busy, but I'll say if you're staying there, just walk 5 minutes to one of the other coves that isn't right in front of that hotel. And if you're going to Maui, I recommend splitting your time between Wailea, which is in the south. I mentioned earlier, my favorite hotel is the Andaz. The other great one there is the Waldorf Astoria. And then switching up for the second half of your trip to the Lahaina neighborhood. And this might be one where people say, but Chris, these islands look so small. Why should I stay in 2 different hotels? And it's like, on a map, the islands look small, but the roads are not really that fantastic in Hawaii. Like they're 1 lane, they're 2 lanes. The drive from one side to the other could take you 2 hours. And so if you really want to explore the islands, then it's worthwhile to kind of put yourself in a few different parts of it. And then if you're going to Kauai, I recommend the neighborhood around the beach of Poipu that I mentioned earlier, because that's the less rainy and more sunny part of Kauai, which is just generally more cheerful if you're going kind of on a beach vacation.
Okay. And in relation to staying at those places, you don't have to stay at a hotel though, do you? Could you spend it at an Airbnb or some other equivalent accommodation?
Yeah, absolutely. There's I think, Hawaii sort of, I don't know if I'll say like invented the notion of the vacation condominium. So there's a ton of like vacation condos that you can kind of rent out. Obviously there's tons of timeshares. Please don't buy a timeshare. If you've already bought a timeshare, I'm sorry. I know there's some of you that love timeshares. I also don't need a lecture on for those of you that really like them.
Timeshares are brilliant, Chris. What are you talking about?
I like hotels because I like. All right. Are you getting money right now from the timeshares? So OC Girl and I, when we went for our honeymoon, we went to Cabo San Lucas, and in Cabo San Lucas, we saw the Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. They got like a ton of timeshares, and there was a guy wearing a T-shirt, and he says, "Please don't tell my mom that I sell timeshares. She thinks I play piano at a brothel." Yeah. So anyway, that goes to tell you what people think about timeshare salesmen.
Wow.
All right. So I also think if you're looking to save money, staying in Hawaii is maybe not stay at like a hotel that's like right on the beach. You can stay at a hotel like, on the beach. It might be $500 a night. And if you're just like 1 or 2 blocks away from the beach, then it's $200 a night. So if you're okay, like walking 5 or 10 minutes to the beach instead of just walking right out of your room, you can save a lot of money. The rooms that have ocean views cost a lot more too than the rooms that don't have ocean views.
Chris, why do you think that Hawaii is so overpriced when it comes to their accommodation? Because, I've stayed in America, mainland America before, and when I've done my bookings to try and see if I can find accommodation in Hawaii, I always found that it's another couple of $100 more expensive. Even in Southeast Asia, you can stay at 5-star resorts that are on the beach for a quarter of the price, and you can spend in Hawaii in some high-rise building that is probably dated in the 90s and so forth. Is there a problem with Hawaii and them not wanting to do up hotels and then make the price affordable for everyone?
I think the reason why the hotels are so expensive in Hawaii is that development is so restrictive in Hawaii. So it's hard to build a new hotel. There's only so many hotels. The demand is high during high season, which then makes them really expensive. They can charge it because there aren't that many choices.
Okay. That's pretty good. That's a good answer. Thank you, sir. It's probably one of the reasons why I still haven't visited Hawaii, because I keep looking at accommodation and I go, I can't afford Wailea. Oh, geez. Or whatever hotel. I might just give Chris a call, my bud.
Yeah, but I think like in Wailea, I think there's like a Residence Inn or a Marriott. I mean, you will find, and maybe like the Andaz or the Waldorf Astoria are $500 a night, but you can find hotels in the area that are like $200 a night. So, or just, like pick a different time of year to go and be like, oh, this time of year is really bad. Let me try that December time frame and see how that looks.
So saying that though, is Hawaii affordable to the average American?
I think Hawaii is in general an expensive destination when it comes to the hotels, for sure. I think that like as far as beach destinations go, I think that like for spring break, college kids go more to Florida and they go more to Mexico because those are cheaper places. Hawaii is an expensive destination. But I think as the islands go, like I would say like Maui is the most expensive place to go, hotels plus food. Oahu's probably next. Kauai is kind of third, and Big Island's probably fourth because Big Island gets nowhere near the amount of tourists that the other three do.
Okay, so you think then the Big Island would be the cheapest option? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so because it's the least touristy.
Least touristy. Okay, so and if you really want to get that Hawaiian feel, how many days do you think is enough? Say if you've got a limited time frame that you can go away, or you want to experience Hawaii, what's the most amount of time? Because for a lot of people that don't know anything about Hawaii, they might think 3 weeks, and some people might go, "Oh, I can only spend five days or 6 nights or 2 weeks." What do you think, in your opinion, to get that feeling of Hawaii?
Right. I think per island, like if you're just going to go, I think 5 days at a minimum per island. And if you did that, that would be like 5 days, 5 nights, like one hotel in that place. I think if you really want to experience the islands, then I recommend like a week on each island, and I recommend you kind of split that with like 4 days on one part and 3 days on another part. So, if you were sort of doing what I'll call like the Australian plan for vacations, which is like, taking 3 weeks off because Australia is really far from everywhere, then I would do like a week in Oahu, a week in Maui, maybe 4 days on Kauai, just because Kauai has less stuff, unless you just love hiking, and in that case, there's more to do. But Kauai has less attractions, I think, than Maui and Oahu do.
Well, I was going to ask you a question about one of the attractions, because I'm looking at my Hawaii DK Eyewitness Travel Guide at the moment, and this place is found on the Hawaii Big Island. And it's a question I haven't written down here because I kind of thought about it now while we've been talking. But it's about cultural things to do in Hawaii, the best cultural things to do. And I found this place called not like poo-poo, but Pu'uhuana o Honoau.
Yeah, work on your Hawaiian, Ben. Come on now.
National. Do you know that place?
I have no idea what that is. I have no idea. I have no idea what place that is.
There's some historical park. I can't believe you can't understand my Hawaiian, Chris. Should I repeat it? Puho onu au. Classic. But this place looks interesting.
I did my best to type into Google what you were saying.
Let me spell it out for you.
It does look interesting. No, I've never been there, but that does look kind of a cool place to go.
Oh, so you could understand me.
Yes, I could. Pu'u anua. Pu'u anua o Hana Umma. That's what I say. My Hawaiian's really bad. So any Hawaiians listening, please take no offense from Ben and my pronunciation of Hawaiian words. None is intended. Ben, are you familiar with the name of the state fish of Hawaii?
Yeah, kind of.
So the state fish of Hawaii, like the sort of English name of it, is the reef triggerfish. But if you were to go to Google and you were to type in the state fish of Hawaii, you will see this name that starts with an H and is about like 20 letters long. It's the Huma Umma Umma Numa Uka Nuka Una Kua Pua. Something like that. Yeah, that was my best attempt at it. Yeah.
Wow. They could have shortened it by like 15 letters. But then who am I to say?
They could have, but it would be less fun that way. This is kind of like supercalifragilistic espialidocious.
What's the next bit that comes after that?
If you something, it might be quite atrocious. Yeah, my Mary Poppins is not top of mind right now.
Poor Mary Poppins. Poor Mary Poppins. So talking about Mary Poppins and words that can't be pronounced or unpronounceable, what makes Hawaii so special?
Yeah, so I think what makes Hawaii so special is like the aloha spirit. And people say that a lot to be like, oh, the aloha spirit. But like the aloha spirit is really this like true friendliness. And like when you encounter that with the Hawaiians, it's like they're just very warm and they'll greet you and they'll help you and they really welcome you to the island. And I think that the other part that makes Hawaii special is the notion of Hawaiian time or island time. And that is that like they're not super precise about like, this starts at like 12:30 exactly. It's kind of like, it kind of starts when it starts, See when you get there. Like the Iglesias, the Fluffy, this comedian, he's got this joke about like, if you were on like a bus in New York City and you asked what time the bus, gets to Times Square or something, they would tell you it gets to Times Square at 12:24. Right. If you're in Hawaii and you were on a bus and you ask them, what time this gets to the beach, the bus driver would respond, we get there when we get there. That's island time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, depending on where you are in Hawaii, the traffic could be pretty bad, couldn't it?
It could be, but actually, like that response is less about the traffic and just more about like, hey man, why are you so concerned about whether it's 15, 20, 30 minutes? Just just relax. Yeah,
fair enough.
So and I think if you like in Hawaii, that's another one. Like even if you're driving, like the traffic's bad, but they're actually really polite about like letting people in, like to merge in. And it's because the Hawaiians, they generally aren't in a rush, but you go to New York City, you go to London, you go to like any big city, you go to Tokyo, people are in a rush all the time, everywhere. And so I think Hawaii is just a place that the attitude of the people who live there is not of a rush. And so it makes you have a much assuming that you actually get in that mindset, which I would encourage anybody who goes to Hawaii to accept that mindset, just relax and live on island time and not pay so much attention to your watch.
And also wear tropical looking shirts.
Yes, for sure. And so this is another one about aloha, right? So sometimes people call those shirts Hawaiian shirts. And if you're in Hawaii, they don't call them Hawaiian shirts. They call it Aloha Attire. So if you're wearing kind of like a floral print shirt, it's called Aloha Attire. And actually, aloha shirts are considered like dress attire. Like the governor of Hawaii, as his like official work attire, wears like an aloha shirt as his,
I love
this is
that.
what I'm wearing coming to work. Suits and ties are really not a Hawaii thing. It's way too hot and humid.
Yeah. You'll need like a towel to wipe your brow while you're in Hawaii because it's so hot, like Singapore.
For sure. I mean, if you're staying in a hotel and they got hand towels, yeah, definitely bring it with you for the day so you can wipe your brow, and definitely bring like some extra sunscreen because you're going to need it to reapply after you've sweat off your first application of sunscreen.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's probably an important thing to do when you are swimming, to make sure you do reapply and get some shade when you can.
Yeah.
You get very hot and sweaty, and you'll probably get very tired too walking around different areas in Hawaii because of the heat and because it's probably, gravel that you're walking on and so forth. So saying that, I guess comfortable shoes are probably best to have on you when you're in Hawaii, even if you're probably near a beach or something.
Yes, definitely. And I would say, like, for the beaches, like, you want like two types of footwear. One, you want like some good athletic hiking shoes in case you're going to go on some sort of hikes with like good traction. But then two, if you're going to the beach, you definitely want like sandals because the sand can get really hot. And if you're trying to walk barefoot to the beach, you might end up like, burning the bottom of your feet, which is really no fun. It's a pretty, like, it's a bad way to start your vacation if on your first day you've burned the bottom of your feet because the rest of your days are just going to be awful.
Yeah, I like to wear thongs on my feet.
Thongs, there you go. Well, it's funny. So in Hawaii, they wouldn't call them thongs, and they don't call them flip flops, but they call them slippers, and they might print like slippers with like a SLIPPAH slippers. Yeah, and if you go to like Rite Aid or Walgreens, like a drugstore, chemist, right? They'll have a sign that'll say slippers, and that's where they got all those things that have a bottom and a little thing that goes between your big toe and the next one next to it.
Okay. Hey, what if you are sick in Hawaii? Where's the best place to go if you're feeling sick?
If you're feeling sick, there's a lot of like urgent care places, and so because people do get sick and they get injured a lot. I mean, if you just asked your hotel and you said, yeah, right, hey, where do I go? Right, they'll tell you. I will say, I have like the most wimpiest injury story in Hawaii.
Yeah,
people have these great. Yeah, people have these great stories about like, oh, they wiped out on a 50-foot wave or whatever.
That's awesome.
I got really hurt on an escalator at a shopping mall. So I was at the Ala Moana shopping mall and I was wearing sandals or slippers, and I did not like step on the step well, and so my big toe ended up getting like sliced open by the teeth of the escalator. Yeah. And so I ended up going to the emergency room in Honolulu. And the thing to know about going to the emergency room in Honolulu is that the emergency room doctors actually wear aloha shirts over their doctor's coat. So they got the white coat on the bottom, but then they got an aloha shirt on top. And that just, when I got to the emergency room, I'm like, this is like, it made me smile, even though like there's blood coming out of my toe from the, fight that I lost with the escalator.
And it's island time too, so you were seen to the following day.
Yeah, right. Well, the good news is that like when I got to the emergency room, it was nighttime, and so it wasn't busy. I think they get most of their people like to show up in the daytime, right? Because people get hurt at the beach and they get hurt hiking. It did take a while for the ambulance to come, I will say, it was in the shopping mall, and after this happened on the escalator, I hobbled like 10 feet to like a bench, and I was sitting there, and my sock's sliced open, and my foot's all red, and I'm holding it in my hand, and there's a guy like at a jewelry store who's looking at me, and I'm like, can you call an ambulance, please? And he calls security, and security comes over, and they're like, do you need help? And I'm like, yeah, can you call an ambulance? And they're like, okay, but to get your name can I see do you have some ID that I can see so I can write down your
Yeah.
name? And I'm holding my foot. You just picture me on a bench with a foot that's, really a lot of blood coming out of it. And I'm trying to hold it
Wow.
like above my heart with both hands.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I'm just
wow.
like, and I go, I do have an ID and it's in my pocket on my left-hand side of my wallet, but I can't really get it out right now. Can I just tell you what my name is? And can you just call it ambulance and tell them someone needs help? But, then they did and they got there and it was all good. So.
Wow. Have you got any pictures of this deformed toe?
I do. I can send it to you, Ben.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It's crazy that you needed an ambulance, though. Like, you must have really damaged it.
It was a lot of blood. And I would say, so it didn't take off any, it didn't go to the bone, but it basically took off, like, say, of my big toe, like the whole bottom skin, basically.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow. So considering you have the bottom of your big toe taken off.
That's a good word. Ugh.
What are some tourist traps for tourists to stay away from, especially escalators and so forth?
Yeah, definitely stay away from the escalators. But I think that like the biggest tourist trap that people often get trapped in is the beach in Waikiki that we talked about a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes, they stay in their hotel there and that's the only place they go. And so I would encourage you, if you're staying in a hotel in Waikiki, get out of Waikiki. Waikiki, like the island is big. And so it is possible to leave. And everything in Waikiki is more expensive because that's where all the tourists are.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. What is the cheapest way to experience Hawaii, considering people have different budgets? And some people might not have the amount of money to spend on luxurious accommodation or, so forth.
Yeah, I think that the cheapest way, if you're staying in a hotel, stay like a block away from the beach, or find a vacation condo, find an Airbnb, and then go in the November or December timeframe.
Okay. And if you need to get around Hawaii, what's the best way to get around? Could you hire a car, a taxi? Could you get a scooter? Or
I recommend renting a car, particularly on Maui and Kauai. On Oahu, there's like lots of options on Oahu. There's buses in Oahu. There's these like tourist trolleys that you can. Trolleys. They're not like on wheel. They're not on rails.
Yeah.
They're on like.
Oh,
wheels.
okay.
But they're sort of like tourist done up buses. If you're staying in Waikiki, the hotels can be really expensive for parking. So in Oahu, you might, like for your 4 nights in Waikiki, you might not want a rental car. But then when you go to Olina, if you stay someplace else, you'll definitely want a rental car. And Uber and Lyft are plentiful on Oahu. A lot of people ask me, Chris, can I do Uber and Lyft in Maui, Kauai, the Big Island? And I don't recommend it. And the reason why is that cell phone service on those islands is really lousy. And if you're reliant on someone to come and pick you up in a place that you need to call them with your cell phone and it doesn't work, you're going to be stuck there a very long time.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think like, service is picking up, but I had friends that went to Kauai like 2 years ago, and they basically said when they would open up the Uber app, they would see like 2 cars driving around the entire island. So, if those 2 people are busy, then you're going to be waiting a long time. Fair
enough. And tell me something about Hawaii that tourists wouldn't really know and experience.
Yeah, well, we already talked about that maybe tourists wouldn't experience the emergency room, which that's something I hadn't experienced for, 10 of my visits there. So I hope you don't either. But I think kind of a cool experience, for people who like, you probably wouldn't find this in a tourist book or something to go see, is to visit my favorite store in Hawaii, which is called Don Quixote. They have like 3 or 4 locations on Oahu. It's a store from Japan. It's like the Japanese version of like Walmart or Target or Kmart. And it's just, if you want to see how the locals shop and a lot of the things that they can get there, check out Don Quixote. It's really cool. And actually, because it's a store from Japan, they have a lot of like Japanese products there. So, for example, the rice cooker that we actually have at home is a Japanese rice cooker that's typically only sold in Japan, but they also sold it at Don Quixote in Hawaii.
Wow. Okay. Hey, Chris, have you done many of the museums in Honolulu?
Many of them. I'm not a huge museum buff, really. So, I mean, when we go to Hawaii, we try to spend most of our time outside at the beach, those sorts of things. There are museums, and
enough.
if it's a lousy weather day, then like there's like a military museum and some other things. So, yeah. OC girl, my wife, she like went into some of like the palaces and things like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to do the palaces. I'm a big museum buff, so if I went to Hawaii and I was in Honolulu, I'd like to do the museum. What is it? It's inside the submarine or nearest submarine. I forgot the name of it.
Oh, sure. Like at Pearl Harbor, there's the
Pearl Harbor. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Right. And actually, so yeah, I've done Pearl Harbor, like I've done the Mighty Mo and this sort of thing, which are the ships that are there. Those are really cool to do. When I think of museums, I think of things that are in buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but definitely visiting the ship, visiting the submarine. That's a lot of fun.
So that's a lot of fun. And have you got any funny or strange stories other than your toad story when you were in Hawaii, Chris? Anything before we go for the final questions?
Yeah, I have one funny story from Hawaii, and that is so I was in which island was I on? I think we were on Kauai. So we were on Kauai. I went with my mom. We were in Kauai, and we were staying at the Hyatt in Kauai. And one of the things I like to do on my YouTube channel is I do video reviews. And so if you want to see a video review of the Hawaiian Kauai, you could probably type in Hyatt Kauai review, and I think the Yellow Productions video will probably be one of the top ones that comes up. But as I'm shooting this video, I'm in kind of the lobby, and I kind of noticed there's like somebody from the hotel like following me or like looking at me. And that always concerns me because I'm afraid that they're going to tell me to stop recording because sometimes hotels are sensitive about that. Like the JW Marriott in Bangkok, I was shooting in the lobby, and like 3 security guards descended on me all at the same time to be like, "Sir, no videotaping in the lobby." They're like, "You can use your cell phone, but not that professional camera." I'm like, "Fine, okay, whatever. I'll use my cell phone," and still ends up with the same thing. So, but anyway, at the Hyatt in Kauai, this guy's following me around, and I go to this area that's kind of like in the middle of the lobby and sort of roped off. And this guy comes up to me and he says, would you like me to move that so you can go in there? And I respond to him like, "Oh no, it's okay. I can shoot from here." And he goes, "It is you. I thought it was you. I thought it looked like you. I've seen all your videos, man. But like I couldn't tell. But like as soon as you spoke, I knew it was you." And then we had this conversation about 15 minutes about how he loves to travel and loves Japan, and loves my videos, and so it was super cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I went from worrying that this guy was going to tell me to turn off my camera to this guy, having a little bit of a bromance going on.
Oh, just like us.
That's right.
Our little bromance. Now, broman. So if you could, final questions now. So Chris, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, other than being here in Melbourne with me hanging out, not drinking beer, but drinking iced tea, where would it be?
Singapore for 2 reasons. Singapore, because I think they've got the coronavirus done pretty good. And then 2, I love the food in Singapore.
Oh yeah. And by the way, listener, if you want really, really, really good Singapore videos, then watch Chris's videos of Singapore on Yellow Productions. There's some of the first videos. No worries. There's some of the first videos I ever watched of Chris. And there's this one quintessential thing that Chris likes to do when he's in Singapore mostly, is getting a towel out of his bag and wiping his brow. And that's where that wiping the brow comment came from earlier.
For sure.
I love those videos, Chris. I still watch them now.
Right on. Yeah, I think my Singapore series I would call like my first great series. Before I would just like, I'd make random videos on a destination, but we went to Singapore and we're like, nah, we're going to do this good. Like we're going to be like a good travel guide. It's going to be all encompassing. and it's going to be funny too. So yeah, like every 2 minutes in the video, I'm wiping the sweat off my brow. And it started as a joke, but it's like, it's really hot. Because I would do it at the beginning of every clip. I would wipe my forehead, and my wife, OC girl, she goes like, we should put that on camera so people can really appreciate this. So yeah.
Yeah. Look, you have the funniest travel videos on YouTube.
Thanks, Ben.
No worries, pal. So if you're in Singapore, what would you be eating or drinking?
I'd be eating laksa, and I'd be drinking lime juice, because lime juice makes you pucker, which is a phrase you'd also hear me say a lot in those videos.
Pucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've seen you drink lime juice in your videos, and it's quite funny. You do pucker up. Pucker.
Indeed.
But laksa you can drink as well, you know.
You can, but I feel like it's kind of about eating the noodles and then maybe drinking a little bit of the soup. But that's spicy, so the lime juice helps kind of counterbalance that spice from the laksa.
It cuts through. Yeah, it's very tasty. I wish I was also in Singapore doing exactly that. And Chris, what's your favorite country and city in the world?
Favorite country is Japan. Favorite city is Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Just an amazing place.
Wow. You know how many people have said that their favorite country is Japan and favorite city is Tokyo? You're not the only one. There's a lot of people that I've interviewed on this podcast that have said the same thing. Geez,
you asked me if I know how many. Is the number 42?
About that.
Okay, good.
42. Yeah, it's probably about 42. It's nearly everyone. So, yeah. And what country or city has surprised you the most?
So I got two for this one. One in a positive way, Bangkok, Thailand. That was a place that I didn't think we would like Thailand, but actually we really loved our time in Bangkok. And so it made us want to go back to Thailand. The food was delicious. The people were friendly. And then on the side of surprising me most from a negative perspective was Naples, Italy. I made a video about Naples called The City of Trash because I was there during one of their famous trash strikes where the garbage people hadn't picked up the trash in like a month. And you can imagine what happens to a city when nobody picks up the trash. It just piles up everywhere and really smelled. So,
wow. That's very trashy.
It is trashy.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I really appreciate it, mate. It's always good to catch up with an old mate.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ben. It was really great talking to you. Really great sharing some good chat about Hawaii with your fellow listeners on the Travelman Podcast.
I've enjoyed it. Now, what's the best way for people to contact you or to watch what you do, Chris?
Yeah, if they want to see all those videos that we talked about, sounds like Ben's going to put some links in the show notes. But if you just want to hop over to YouTube and type in Yellow Productions, then you'll find the Yellow Productions channel. And if you want to find all the Hawaii videos, then type in Yellow Productions Hawaii, and you'll get the Aloha spirit right there on your screen.
And if you want the Aloha spirit from me, you know where to go, www.travelmanpodcast.com and travelmanpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where I've got a group, and you can listen to my podcast on all the different platforms. So very accessible. And if you want to see me in video form, I am in probably a couple of Chris's videos on Yellow Productions. One was a Melbourne travel guide, and there were 3 versus videos which Chris and I did together, and that was a lot of fun too when Chris came to Melbourne. But thank you so much, Chris. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, it sure has. And so, Ben, definitely drop those links in there so your visitors can see you on YouTube too. So it's been great.
Thank you, sir. Will do.
Oh, and if you hear a drink in the background, I am drinking some Taiwanese milk tea at the moment. So that's
so funny. I was just about to ask you.
Yeah. Yes. Because if you've ever, for any of your listeners or my viewers, if they've watched my live streams, they always know I have a discussion about what I'm drinking at any point in time.
Yeah. Well, we've always talked about what we drink. Hey.
For sure. And people always go like, oh, he's drinking again. And I'm like, when you talk for an hour, like it's really hard to physically talk for that long and not drink. I mean, these must be like superhumans that expect us not to drink for an hour.
Yeah, I know. Well, they probably...
Okay.
We are superhumans, though.
Well, that's true. Just our superpowers are different. I don't know. I have to think about what my superpowers... my superpowers, what sarcasm is one of the many services I offer or something like that.
Yeah, I love your sarcasm because it's really dry. And I don't know when you're being sarcastic. And I think it's the same with me. I think sometimes I'm sarcastic and people don't get when I'm being sarcastic.
For sure. I think it sometimes, like when I meet new people, like I'll say some sarcastic joke like, oh, I really love that. And people will be like, really? And I'm like, no, I hate it. That's the most awful thing ever. Like, what are you talking about?